So we've been on the bus for, I don't know how long it used to take from Paris, but like 2 hours usually. Used to have to get out of Paris, out into the countryside. And for whatever reason, I just hadn't taken a drink on the bus, no water, no nothing. So to quote my mom, I was parched by the time we got there. So the coach pulls up onto the gravel outside the chateau. We get off and everybody's sort of looking up the building. I'd been there before, so it wasn't quite the same experience. And, it's that amazing first moment where you see the chateau and everyone's thinking, wow, like, it's going to be cool. And people have told you about it, but until you're confronted with it, you don't quite realize the scale of it. So I'm so thirsty. I go up to, do you remember Pierre, the guy? I think he used to come from a village near where Bill lived and used to come up to help look after everybody, right? He was like a sort of twinkly-eyed Frenchman.
Yeah.
Didn't speak the best English, but obviously didn't make any difference. And we're in France. So I say to him, if I'm excuse me, I'm thirsty. If you got any water, And I'm sort of doing this, making the universal gesture for can I have a drink? Or would you like another pint? And he sort of looks at me and he walks off. Well, he says, yeah, oui. He walks off. And as he walks off, he sort of does a Columbo moment and he turns back and he goes, English. And I was like, yeah, English. And he's like, as if that was the breakthrough. I was like, that doesn't make any difference. I'm just thirsty for some water, please. And he sort of scurries away down into the cellar. He comes back with the biggest box of beer, big crate of those little French Kronenberg things. He goes, English. I was like, well, it would be rude not to drink these now, but all I wanted was some water, which a casual cultural misunderstanding over what an Englishman drinks.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix. The Stubby, the famous Stubby. I haven't had a Stubby for a while.
They are, they're a great institution. Speaking of which, that's probably not it's obviously not my only chateau memory, but it's my.
It'd be good if it was your only memory of the chateau. That would be the most surreal. Didn't learn anything about copy. Didn't have any experiences with other copywriters. Just me and Pierre. He just judged me as a beer drinker, and that's all I can remember.
He judged me as an Englishman, and inferred from that I was a beer drinker. And do you know what? He wasn't wrong, but I did want some water. Anyway, the reason I was telling that story is because I think everybody who went to Chateau Courtomer in that period of time between, 2005 and 2015, I think it was roughly the time when those events were running every year, everybody will have their own little chateau anecdote, a little shining memory that symbolizes that time spent out there. I want to know what yours is, and then I have to go back out and explain this.
Well, I was going to say, before I have several I could go into, and some are like deep and meaningful. Some are silly, which I can't even share in public for fear of being arrested. Some are silly and can be shared. But I was going to say, before we go into those, and some, by the way, what I was going to say, just really small things, but it had that such a formative effect that I think even those small things are important. But yeah, we should zoom out. Why are we talking about this fancy chateau in the northwest of France, 2 hours outside of Paris?
Well, so there'll be two groups of people watching this. Either people who are tuning in because they were on those trips, or they've heard about those trips directly because they're part of the businesses that were involved and are sort of reminiscing alongside us. And then another group of people for whom this is all completely new. So I'll just fill that second group of people in very quickly. These trips out to the Chateau at Courtomer were effectively copywriting training camps, not boot camps. They were gatherings of copywriters from all over the world. They were run as internal events, effectively, for businesses that are part of the agora milieu of companies. So there was people from all over the world. So there's Americans, English, Australian, New Zealand, French, German, Spanish, Argentinian, Chinese, Indian. Am I missing any? Brazilian, all
Chile.
South Africa, Chile.
Chile.
Yeah, there was people from everywhere. And they were effectively a chance for lots of
north of England.
We did like one or two from the north of England. Yeah.
From the north of England.
Skipped a lot, as we referred to them. And they were run for a variety of reasons. They were run by John Ford and sort of overseen by various points, Mark Ford and Bill Bonner. And they were effectively a way of just bringing together lots of copywriters from around the world. So there was a massive social element in terms of meeting your peer group, this group of people who were working in the same market, but maybe in a different language, or, had the same way of thinking about the world as you, but you'd never met them because they worked in Argentina or Buenos Aires or whatever it might be. So there was a sort of social dimension, but there was obviously a really compelling business reason too, which is you need to take time out from your year, if you work in these industries, to share ideas, to develop new ideas, to sort of enrich the way you think about the business. And we'll come back to that in a second. So these events used to happen every year until they stopped around 2015. I think John got dragged into other parts of the business. Maybe he didn't have the time. Maybe he was working on other things. And also, I think perhaps the businesses got too big. There was too many writers. In fact, by the end, it was like, the chateau is on 30 bedrooms. And by the end, even sharing bedrooms, there was people staying in the hotel down the road in the village. It was big, and the business kind of got too big. And so they stopped happening, and nobody really noticed to begin with.
I'm gonna play slight devil's advocate or be slightly cheeky. I also think that, like all businesses, people forget to train people, and people forget to. And I think it could be leveled at the agora world. I'm not just saying that specific company, but all of those companies, the direct response copy world. I think certainly in the agency world, I think almost all things where there are copywriting creativity, I think there is a huge lack of respect for the training and constant learning that has fallen by the wayside in the last decade, I would say.
Respect. That's a loaded term. I think often people just end up being too busy. The marketing schedule needs filling up. The copy needs writing.
Yeah, the reasons behind that are vast and varied and business based. But I think it's something. The reason I say that is because I think that fundamentally is one of the reasons why it's important to do, because you even outside of club, you need to constantly be learning and constantly giving time to do that.
I think it's a little bit like everybody knows they should eat healthier and exercise more, but people don't often get around. It's easy to not get around to doing those things, even though those are the most important things you can do for your health. Sort of life gets in the way.
Sure.
And so copy training, or I actually think a better way of describing it would be sort of creative recharging, like reminding yourself of the mission and the context, and sharing ideas in a way that you don't when you're sat in front of your computer in an office or at home. I think that's really important. People, it's easy to not do. You have to make a concerted effort. And so, like I said, back to the story, these events stopped happening in sort of around 2015. And like I was saying, I don't think really anyone noticed too much. Maybe a year went by, a couple of years went by, and we're not doing those anymore. And maybe some businesses did their own things, but there was no big sort of jamboree of copywriters. And then, of course, the pandemic has changed a lot of things, and the business as a whole has changed. And so fast forward to earlier this year, I was in a bar with John. In fact, we were in, where were we? I think it's called Cambridge in Maryland. We were watching some people that we work with play neon golf outside. Fuck knows why.
The only golf I'll play.
Still not clear to me what was going on or what. Anyway, we were talking, it's quite late, and we were talking about the trips to the chateau. We were sort of reminiscing, as people do, that those were great things and we've lost something. And I said to him, right, and by we, I mean me and John and you, we should resurrect that trip. We should find a way of re-hosting one of those events for ourselves, not for a business, not as part of training for any individual business, but because we think we could gather together a great group of copywriters and resurrect those events. And John thought it was a good idea. And I said, I tell you what, if we wake up tomorrow morning and we both still think it's a good idea, sorry, not in the same bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be one bad idea tomorrow morning, but which one will it be?
Yeah.
Which one will it be?
And if we wake up tomorrow and we think we can do this,
yeah,
we'll do it.
Of all the decisions about last night.
Yeah. So we woke up,
yeah,
both of us half dressed, out on the golf course, covered in neon. No. Yeah. And we both still thought it was a good idea. So I got
half dressed. That was the one decision we did make correctly.
Wearing golf caps. Anyway, we thought it was a good idea. So I got in touch with Bill and said, hey, me and John have this idea. Do you think we can try and find a way of using the chateau next year? We've managed to do it. So
Bill was in the top bunk of the hotel. That's how you was able to get in touch with him. You just like reached up, tapped him on the shoulder. Why are you guys in the bottom bunk together? I don't get this.
We've succeeded, I think. So next May, between Monday the 12th of May, Thursday the 15th of May, for 3 nights, we are inviting a small group of people, copywriters and marketers and publishers, I guess, to join us out at the chateau in Normandy. Now, we'll talk a little bit about logistics and dates and things like that a little bit later on. One thing to be really clear, this is not an event that's run by any specific company. Those events that I talked about were part of, they were organized institutionally as part of the Agora group of companies. This isn't. There will be people who work for Agora or Agora related businesses there, but this is organized by us, by thefix and by John Ford. It's a kind of collaborative effort. But the idea and the sort of philosophy behind it is identical to what it always used to be. The difference is this time you don't need to be an insider at one of those businesses to come along and join us. Places are available to anybody who wants to come along, with a few caveats that maybe we'll come back to. But I think it's probably going to be, it will certainly be the most unique copywriting event, probably of the next. If you compare it to other copy boot camps and conferences and meetings and gatherings all around the world, there won't be anything else like this. There's no setting quite like the chateau, and there's no sort of cultural memory. There's no sort of resonance of an idea quite like those meetings were. That said, we're not meeting to just talk about the past, and we're not bringing together people so that we can sort of reenact things that we did 15 years ago. We're bringing
the opposite, in fact.
Yeah, the opposite. We're bringing this back because we think it's probably needed now more than ever. And I think, like we alluded to, it's always a good idea to take a step back from your business and start to think differently and share ideas with other people in your, working at your level within the same industry or related industries as you. But I think given some of the changes we've seen in the industry over the last few years, there's a lot going on at the moment. There's been a lot of change. Some things have stayed the same. A lot of things have completely, radically changed. So we kind of felt like now is the right moment to bring everyone back together again. And that's what
not just Phyllis. And when we talk about change, we are talking on kind of 2 levels as well, in the sense that there's the philosophical change of how the audience have changed, perhaps. Actually, there's so many levels of change, but there's how the audience have changed philosophically, their awareness of things and what have you. There's how business has changed, how marketing has changed. But then there's also, so I guess on the emotional side of things, but then also on the technical side of things, the medias have changed. We have social these days. We have Substacks. We have VSLs, we have webinars, we have live in-person things, we have things that can be done off the cuff that could never have been done before. All of these, both emotional and technical changes have occurred in the industry, and it's time to actually sit down and figure out, A, what's happened, what's gone on, but also what is coming, what haven't we seen yet, what is still developing, what's the next thing. And that's as much about what we're looking at doing is figuring out that stuff. In that kind of creative, open, free space. That's just as important as looking at what's been going before.
Although when you say open and free, people can take that in the wrong way. I mean, you can
nobody will have a hat on.
Yeah,
that's how free it will be.
So with all that in mind, so the event is called Future Shock at the Chateau. Like I said, 12th of May to 15th of May next year. And like Glenn said, the idea effectively is that those meetings in the past were where we figured out where the industry was going to go, the ideas we were going to test, the formats we were going to test, the strategies and models we were going to use. Those meetings were where a lot of those ideas were sort of incubated, or if they weren't developed directly there, they were shared there. You know, it was a melting pot. Terrible cliche, isn't it? But, you know, they were either developed there or they were talked about and shared there, which is just as important, because you need to know what other people are thinking and trying so that you can try it yourself. You know, for instance, when the first time I went to the Chateau, we all sat down and watched End of America, not because of the idea necessarily, but because it was kind of the first VSL in the financial space around 2010. I think it was a breakthrough, and the guy that came and spoke actually wasn't the author of the promotion. It was one of the video guys behind it. I mean, it was a plain video sales letter, but at the time, none of us had ever tried any of that before. So we all went back to our businesses and tried them. Some of us tried the same kind of ideas. Some of us just used the format. That's an example of the type of thing that, I mean, it was forwards looking. Sometimes you have to look at what's working now to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And that's why we've called the event Future Shock, because we see it as a chance to talk about the ideas that are going to define the next 5 to 10 years. And ideas can mean any number of things there. So it will almost certainly mean the copy ideas that are working in finance, in health, in other areas of the market, the styles of writing, you know, the way in which those promotions are written, the formats that they're written. I mean, that's a huge one. Most big business breakthroughs come with a change in format. Then other things, you know, techniques for writing, techniques for organizing your copy team, training your copy team. So there's the direct skill set around copywriting, but then we're bringing in outside experts to talk about some of the other things. So for instance, we haven't mentioned artificial intelligence yet, but we know that's going to have an impact on the industry. I mean, I think everybody's certain that that's true. Nobody quite knows what that impact is going to be. So we're going to have some expert practitioners talking about how they're using AI and a chance to share ideas around AI. Format is another thing. You know, who's trying what? We're going to be talking a lot more about that. And we're also going to bring in some things that weren't present really in those meetings before, like branding, or how businesses in our area of the market can incorporate some of the thinking behind branding. That's a conversation that's going on at lots of these businesses at quite a high level already. Not how do we put a spot ad on inside in the Super Bowl and spend $50 million, but should we have a brand? How do we develop our brand? How do we make that work in the context of using the sales techniques we already know work? I don't think anybody wants to move away from them, but we might want to complement them. So I'm not going to say his name, but we're bringing in one of the best known and most respected people from that world of advertising, somebody who has put together and advised on campaigns that are massive, massive brands, the biggest of the big, to come and talk about that challenge. How do you square off a very direct response driven market with the idea of branding? You don't want to kill either idea. You want them to complement one another. How do you do that?
I was going to say, and vice versa. It's
yes, exactly.
It's I say a lot, and I'll say it again. When I left the direct response world and went freelance, and started writing in the indirect response world, and now I write in both, my first takeaway was like, oh, everybody's been getting it wrong, because everybody's been thinking it's either or, and it's not. It's all and. It's you need to put them all together to get the maximum return. I've just wrote a pithy line in another piece of copy saying it's not this, it's not that, it's both. But it so often is the case, and so often I will level this at anyone in the industry. They're blind to one side of that, and it's a huge mistake.
But that's changing. That is changing, and at the highest levels of the various industries that we work on, this is a conversation people are having. So we wanted that to be part of what we're doing. So we're bringing in some experts. There's other legendary names from the world of financial direct response coming along too. I'm not going to give away any of the names here. We're going to be releasing those over the next few weeks. If you want to know more, if you want to have any chance of coming along, you need to join our priority waiting list, which Glenn will bring the, if you're watching on YouTube, you're to see this on the screen in a second. We'll also post it with the email that we send this out and put it on YouTube too. It's free. Just sign up and you'll hear more as we announce the speakers and various other things like that. You'll be the first to hear, because obviously the Chateau is a relatively small place. It's a big, as buildings go, it's big. But I think there's only about 20 places available. So it's a pretty small group of people that we're asking to come along. Now, I said earlier, it's open to anybody with some caveats. I just want to explain what I meant by that. So it doesn't matter what business you work for, whether you own your own business, whether you're in health, finance, whatever, you don't have to be, it's open to all in that regard. That said, we are asking people to apply to come along, because we expect there to be far more demand than we have places available. So what do I mean by that? Because we've already had some questions from people. That means two things. One, this isn't going to be suitable for somebody who's just starting out as a copywriter and wants to hear about, has a great subject line, or, techniques for the close and an offer, the nitty gritty of copywriting. That is not to say if that's the level you are working at, that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, this isn't going to be worth your time. So if you're just starting out and you're learning your craft, there's going to be better things, different ways of spending your time. So we're asking people to apply so that we can make sure that we can sort of curate the room. But beyond that, it's open to anybody. We just want to make sure, like with anything, one, we have the right group of people in the room so that everybody can learn from everybody else. So there's a chance to learn and contribute. And also, we don't want to waste anybody's time. We don't need to come all the way to France and spend time hearing about branding when really you're working on copy that's, I want to know how to make this special renewal work better. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's really important in everything that we do that we don't waste people's time. Because for the right group of people, and there are plenty of people out there who are senior copywriters, copy chiefs, marketing directors, publishers, people who are trying to break into a new industry or learn the techniques of the financial and health copy industries and apply them to their own coaching business or whatever it might. There are tons of people for whom this will be a chance to not just sort of engage with the ideas that will change the industry, but to be in the room with the people that matter, that are trying to make these kind of things happen. So that's also, don't let the word application put you off. It's just so that we can make sure we have the right group of people there. You'll know already what you
will be an email, essentially. Like it's not it's not going to be a form. It's one of those things. I think we've spoke about it in previous things, even when we engage clients. We want to make sure that we can do the right work for you. When I'm talking on a micro level, if I take on a client, it's like I want to make sure you will be happy with the work I do. And it's this, in that same spirit, we want to make sure that anybody who comes will go away going, bloody hell, that was good. Like that's exactly what I needed. If you have just started copywriting yesterday, it's not the thing for you. There is loads of other ways we can help you. That's not to say don't even apply. It's just that by explaining where you are at, what your aims are forthcoming, we can very honestly, as we do everything we do, honestly and openly say, hey, it sounds like you might be the right fit, or it sounds like you might want this. Is that the case? And we'll have a bit of back and forth and figure out if it's the right way. So there's no like putting your application in and then waiting.
No. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to set something like that up, Glenn. It's good. But because a few people had flagged that with me, that, oh, it's an invitation only and got to apply. And I don't want that to put people off. Just wanted to put some meat on the bones of what we mean by that. So just a few more logistics. So places, tickets, I guess you could say, are going to become available probably in the next month. It will be first come, first served. The only people who will get access to those tickets will be on our priority list. We won't be splattering this around the internet. So if you want to know more, want to hear about everything, you want to hear about the lineup and the speakers and the agenda, you need to sign up for the priority list so that you can get more information. Just a little bit of logistics. It's going to be a sort of all-in package. So what you'll need to do is arrive in Paris, and then your ticket will include everything from that point on. So that's accommodation out of Paris to the chateau. Sorry, not travel from Paris out into the Normandy countryside. 3 nights of accommodation, food, drink, beer, wine. We might go on a couple of adventures. Barbados, yeah, that might be associated. And then we'll get you home as well. Sorry, not home, back to Paris. So if you're factoring in travel and things like that, that's what you need to do. This is kind of how it used to work when we did the Agora things. It was like, it used to be meet outside Montparnasse station and we'll just take it from there. So it's kind of the same thing. So you're not got to get to the chateau yourself. You just got to get to Paris. So easy to get to from anywhere in Europe.
Of course, Montparnasse station is different to Montparnasse station. So finding which one you need to go to is very difficult.
I will not have my French corrected, Clyde. It's Gare du Nord. Just change it. Anyway, so that's just so that you know about this. That's kind of everything included. So once you're there, we'll take care of everything: food, entertainment, things like that. We've got lots of cool plans, and we have got some very cool speakers coming along. Final thing I will say, we are offering places to our sort of friends in the industry first, okay? And frankly, that's so that I can make sure there are as many cool people in the room as possible. So these are people who are running businesses, running copy teams, senior copywriters, writing, big controls, people that we've worked with. We are offering some places to those people too. So if you are in that category of people, and by that I'm going to say, if you have my email address and you can write to me and you're interested in coming along, write to me personally and let me know. Like everything, if we can get the right group of people in the room, and there's probably going to be sort of 20, we might be able to push it a little bit, but I think we'll struggle. If we can get the right group of people in the room, every person contributes their ideas and their thoughts and their results and their plans. One of the best things about the Chateau retreats was that sense of connection and sharing of ideas, pooling of ideas. Obviously, some people are in competition, so there's a little bit of an element of that. But far more often, people are very open. We're going to try this. We're going to try this. And you bounce ideas off each other. So it's important to us that we sort of build that room properly. That's a very sort of highfalutin way of saying it. But I think it's true. If you're at a round table, you want the other people round the table to be able to contribute things that are going to be of genuine value to you. Now, if you've been writing copy for a couple of years and you maybe you want to persuade your copy chief to send you along to this, there'll be loads to learn. You're not going to have to give a presentation. You're not going to have to bring slide decks. But you'll already know that you're able to contribute or to share ideas and talk about the things that you're trying. You'll already know that there are people who are interested in comedy who've contacted us who's like, I want to bring my copy team. I want to bring, 2 or 3 people. Generally speaking, this is something that all businesses will be happy to send their copywriters to. And frankly, anyone who's a publisher or a copy chief right now will be thinking to themselves, whether they're interested in coming to the Chateau or not, shit, we need to be doing our own version of something like this. We need to be getting away from it. We need to be meeting. We need to be sharing ideas and thinking. Everybody in their heart of hearts knows this is something that's essential. my argument is, why not come and join some of the best people in the world at the best location you're going to get to really sort of be a part of copy history? But everybody knows that this is something they need to be doing, regardless of whether any of this connects with you in any way. So I think most businesses are going to be happy to send copywriters along to this. That's certainly the feedback I've had so far. Anyway, that's enough sales pitches from me. Glenn, at one point you were going to share a story about your chateau experiences, but why don't we end on that?
Yeah.
Give me the most memorable, your most memorable chateau experience.
Oh, you see, so my most memorable ones, and I'm not just saying this, but I will save. I can't. Some of them are so intimate and embarrassing for certain people involved that I can't fully share them whilst on a public broadcasting system. However, I will promise that anybody who does come along to the show, I will happily regale you with any of those stories. But I'm gonna, rather than all of the wonderful, silly moments I remember, and there are so many. I've got images of Simon Munton, who's now the head of copy in Australia. He stealing wine from the basement. I've got images of various people. I've got images of Grant Perry, the poor man, had to share a room with me, and I was snoring through the night, and he was so tired, bless him, and he had to give a Facebook talk the next day. All of the silly things and all of the games and comical moments are kind of outweighed by when the more I obviously are working on this project and getting this all organized and think about the times and the ways it changed me. They were so formative, and I learned so much about copy that I remember now. But one, I'm going to say this is my most memorable, just because it's slightly trite and it gives people a takeaway of like a learning, if you like, a teaching. But I remember Bill Bonner was there, and we got up and we were talking. I'll praise it down quick, but we were talking about how we'd tested a promotion and it had worked. And Bill said something like, all right, and what did you test against it? What did you try next? And we went, oh no, we haven't tried it. It worked. And he went, so you wrote the best ever promotion in the world ever that's going to sell the most tickets to you, whatever. You wrote that the first time you ever tried to write it. Wow, like that's really good. Well done. Like that's brilliant. And obviously in that moment, a young man luckily I wasn't the one at the end of the kind of withering put down, but I just went, of course. And to this day, to the point the other day I was talking to a client, the idea of testing stuff in the market to realize that there's always a better iteration of every promotion. Unless you've got 100% conversion on any advertising thing that you put out, there will always be a better version and another way to think about it and create and riff on ideas that you've already got. For example, any promotion that you or I might have had, even if it's great, someone else will bring something new to that. And if you test that in the market, you might find that works. That has been a thing that for now, nearly probably 20 years, I've been writing copy. And I went there at the very beginning. I was very lucky that I went like the first year I'd started in Agora, I went to there, which was when I actually started writing copy. For 20 years, that has stood me pretty well. And I probably have another like 10 things that I could reel off that were actual copy, and not just copy as in how you write copy, but like the theory of selling and marketing and understanding that stuff all came from those places.
It's a philosophy, isn't it? And actually there's a sort of double meaning of the word philosophy there, because that's a business philosophy, but it's also very much in Bill's philosophy of the way he approached the business, to be talking about that in an orangery in
yeah, I mean,
French countryside. Yeah, so
it was beautiful. I'd also say that I was explaining this to someone else the other day, how much the whole world of that has influenced my character as well as my knowledge of copy, but the fact that you are there in that moment in such a interesting and seemingly grander space than you would normally associate with the lowly job of doing all the words and all that kind of stuff. It just elevates everything, and it makes, I was going to say forces you, but not in a bad way. It embraces you and it lifts you up to be a greater creative force than you thought you could be. It gives you confidence to think outside the box, for want of a better term. And that's what I think that did a lot for me. I never imagined any of this, like even what we're doing now, talking to other people about doing that. That was not part of it, but it all came through spending time with the kind of people you'll be spending time with if you come to this particular event. But it all came from that as an amalgam in that specific place, which is why it's one of a kind, because it is genuinely a kind of historical copy place. I don't think there's really many other places like that that's touched so many people and so many businesses that still operate today.
Yeah, couldn't say it better myself. So we'll wrap this up. If any of this is of interest to you, get your name on that priority list. We'll post a link to it in various places so that you can find it if you're listening on Spotify or whatever it might be. Send us any questions if you have them. But once you're on that priority list, you'll hear about the speakers, hear about the costs involved. You'll hear about how you can, how and when places come available. So get your name down, and there's going to be nothing else like it. And my God, I doubt we'll do it again because it's a lot of work, but it's going to be fantastic. So we'll wrap things up. Thank you very much for listening to us reminiscing about the chateau, and we will speak to you again very shortly. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.